What is going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down 112.0, and we are starting a brand new series. It was voted on by the community, and they have chosen Control. Today I have with me Matt.
Hello, friends.
And yeah, Control. I have started this game before, and have actually made it farther from where we're going to talk is as far as I've ever made it in that game. I thought I had made it a little bit farther than that, but nope. That is a lie. But yeah, Control. Created by Remedy Entertainment, the same people that brought you Alan Wake and the original Max Payne trilogy, or not trilogy, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And was originally released in 2019. It's funny enough, I did not realize that game was that old. But
I figure because we're still in this just post-COVID area or in COVID, I always assume things that seemed 2 years ago were actually 3 years ago, and something that I think happened last year probably happened 2 years ago, because I did, there's that whole year where nothing happened.
Yeah, I feel like I lost 2 years.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm always saying, yeah, that was last year. Oh, wait, no, that was like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. No.
And that's kind of how I feel here when I hear 2019. If I had guessed off the cuff, I would have said 2020. But I'm like, yeah, plus the gap year, and then there you are.
Yep. I think it will forever be that way.
Yeah.
That's the 1 year we lost. It's crazy. But yeah, so as we do with every new series, we start with our history with the game. As I said, I had played this previously, so it came to Game Pass. The original version of the game came to Game Pass probably a year ago, I guess. Somewhere around in there. And I downloaded it and booted it up and played probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of the game. And I said, this is okay. It feels like a Remedy game. And kind of just left it at that. Didn't ever go back to it. I review games, Phoenix Down games, all this other stuff started cropping up, so I had to put it on the back burner. And then it was dropped from Game Pass. I think a month ago. So
which makes sense.
Go ahead.
I think on the PS5 it was free last February, so if it was a similar timing on the Xbox, maybe it was up there for a year.
Yeah, probably. Which I had found the Ultimate Edition for I think $10. I can't remember. It was cheap. It was on like a Microsoft sale, and I was like, well, that comes with both DLCs. I think we're good. It's got the Series X version, so that's where I'm playing. I'm playing on the Series X. And, yeah, I picked it up then and started playing it again. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, extremely similar history. When this game came out, I really wanted to play it. Remedy's one of those companies that maybe doesn't have the most games, but man, I fell in love with the first two Max Payne games. I've probably played the first one 3 or 4 times through, and the second one 2 or 3 times. It came out like the year I went to college, and then the third year of college, it was, I had another friend in college who played it a lot, and we would play it and talk about it, and then a couple months would go by, one of us would start playing it, and the other one would be like, oh yeah, I should play that again too, and just over and over was playing Max Payne in college, and then really, really loved Alan Wake as well. So I've missed a few of their games, most notably Quantum Break, but was super excited for Control when it came out, and then didn't do anything with it. I don't know what I was busy doing, but it wasn't playing this game.
Did you purchase it?
I didn't. No, I never purchased it. I only picked it up. Well, that's not true. I think I have it. Well, maybe I just have multiple free copies, actually. I know I have it on the PC. I think it was free on Epic Games.
Yeah.
I also have it on the PS5. I have the Ultimate Edition because that was free last February. And I did a similar thing. I played it for a couple hours. I got into the third mission or so and then liked it, but just kind of fizzled because I was busy doing other things, I guess.
Sure.
And always wanted to get back to it, always wanted to play it. I kind of like the vibe. I like a lot of the vibes of their games and never really got back to it. So I'm really excited to be doing so now. But yeah, I think I got probably about as far as you did the first time around, and then we're similarly far, which is just past where I got last time at the moment now. So it's all new, and basically the whole rest of the game is going to be brand new. So
yeah,
excited to keep playing.
Yeah, me too. So I kind of lived vicariously through Ken and Anthony. I think Anthony reviewed the game. I can't remember. But Anthony was like sending me direct messages about it. And me and him are both fans of the internet forum short story creepypasta known as SCP. Matt, are you familiar with SCP?
No, just I've looked it up once or twice, but I've never really sunk into it.
Yeah, so that's a rabbit hole. That's a massive, that's a massive rabbit hole of. So SCP is basically it's user created stories, but they're told in a way that it's like you're reading a top secret document. SCP stands for Secure Control and Protect
Procedures.
Containment Procedures. Okay, and it's about a foundation that takes not only cursed artifacts but also dangerous supernatural beings and creatures and all sorts of stuff, and they keep them in this kind of like a warehouse 13, if you will. Yeah. That's another thing that I'm going to keep referencing is Warehouse 13 and the fan favorite Friday the 13th, the series.
Yeah, and for me it's The Lost Room, the old sci-fi miniseries.
That's right. Yeah, The Lost Room as well.
Where there's a bunch of objects of power similar, and each one has like a power. And yeah, it's funny because Control has a very kind of unique flavor to it, but it is reminiscent of a lot of other things. Yeah, definitely.
And when Anthony was telling me, he's like, dude, this is just SCP all over again. I was like, I'm very much interested in this game now. Because I'll be honest with you, I played Quantum Break. I got probably 3/4 of the way through that game, and I was just like, I don't know if I like this. It was just, it didn't feel the same. Like I'm a big fan of Alan Wake, and I was like, Quantum Break, they try to do too many things, I feel like, with the whole in between chapters, there's an hour-long TV show that you watch that's live action, and I don't know. I couldn't, I guess I say I couldn't get into it. I got into it because I played probably 6 hours of that game. But I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I mean, I still own it.
Yeah, that ought to be plenty of time. If you're 6 hours in and you aren't feeling it, then you're probably not going to feel it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the acting was good. I don't know. I guess I just didn't like the gameplay that much, even though the gameplay is a lot like Control. I just feel like there wasn't that underlying mystery, which is what's really keeping me going with Control.
Yeah.
So,
it's mystery on mystery to the point that I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. This game feels like a freaking fever dream.
Yeah.
Because I guess we can just start with the beginning of the game. You play as Jesse Faden, who is who has just arrived at the Federal Bureau of Control, which is a government agency. And when she arrives there, no one's around. And she also doesn't actually think this place exists. It's so weird, like how, because you get, much like Max Payne, much like Alan Wake, you have this kind of like film noir inner monologue where she is speaking in her head, you know.
Yeah.
And
even when she's speaking to other people.
That gets on my nerves a little bit. Because if you ever go back and watch the TV show The Wonder Years, right? Everybody remembers The Wonder Years. I watched it recently. My wife got into it, and I watched it recently, and there are literally like 2-minute sections where Kevin is standing there and just kind of staring off into space in a scene, and he's letting Daniel Stern talk in his head, basically narrating it, and I'm just like, did they just tell him to just act confused for like a minute? And it's strange. And she does it here too, where like somebody will say something to her and the camera will kind of zoom in on her face and she's talking to herself. And it's like a 20 or 30 second thing. And I'm thinking, does the other person standing next to her say, "Are you okay?" You know?
Yeah. Spaced out.
Yeah. But the thing is like, even when she's talking to herself, which we come to find out she's not actually talking to herself, she's talking to someone in her head. I don't know. It's just doubly confusing.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, it seems like there's a lot of people she's talking to in her head.
I feel like she's just talking to one person. And for a while there, I thought she was talking to her brother, but then kind of found out she's not. She's looking for her brother.
Yeah, but isn't she getting messages from like the board and the old?
Yes.
We'll get into all the details, but I feel like there's faces and there's random words and I never really know exactly who she's talking to. I kind of thought it was multiple people, but.
Yeah, at the beginning, she's just talking to one person, but then a whole bunch of people get into her head, like the director, and then on top of that, the board is also talking to her.
Yeah.
And like I said, it feels like a fever dream, because there's so many things I'm just like, what is going on? So, she arrives at this giant skyscraper building, and when she walks in, there's nobody around. And as you continue investigating, you realize the building is on a lockdown. And I guess the first person she runs into is the janitor.
Yep.
Right? Ati, is that his name?
Yep. Ati.
Yeah. Who, is he Danish? Swedish? I don't know what he is. But he basically tells her, you need to go to the directors. And we go through this empty building, go up to the director's office, and the director is laying there, dead, shot in the head, with what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And she's told by this voice in her head to pick up the gun. She picks up the gun, and everything changes. So as you were walking through like the hallways and stuff like that, you had like portraits of the director and stuff like that. Now there's a portrait of her as the director. And once we start meeting people, everybody just immediately says, "Oh, you're the new director." Well, how do you know this? Like, everybody just speaks it as a matter of fact. Yeah. And I'm like, did I miss something here? Why does everybody just assume that she's the new director?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you definitely get the progression of there was a director, that person's dead, you pick up the gun, you have to go through a trial of sorts, right? Like the board kind of challenges you to go through that first little Astral Plane mission.
Yeah.
And I assume it's when you finish that you officially become the director because you've now passed the test.
I'm assuming. I don't know. You have to prove that you can use the gun.
Yeah.
So, which is a object of power.
Yeah, and it's interesting that even the fact that she can walk around under her own control is important, and is part of how she gets to be the director because she even has the opportunity to pick up the gun.
Right. So the what is it called? The service weapon? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Service pistol, service weapon.
Yeah, the service weapon is a object of power. So, to explain a little bit more, the Federal Bureau of Control is a government agency that collects these cursed objects, and keeps them from the general public. And these objects have all different kinds of abilities. And they're usually everyday mundane things. So we'll get into it a little bit, but there's like the service weapon, which is a gun that can morph and become different types of weapons. And it also doesn't require ammunition. It regenerates ammunition. There is a floppy disk that was found during the Cold War in Russia that, when activated, can violently throw objects around the room. And these objects of power allow a person to basically bound to them, and they now have that ability. And so that's
one of the reasons it reminds me of the Lost Room, because they were very mundane items there too, like a comb and a wallet and a bus ticket, and each one had a different ability if you had it.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing, is that it's these mundane things. There's one I still haven't figured out what it does, but there's a jukebox that they have in like a containment cell. And I'm just like, what does that thing do? But yeah, so
my big.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think my timing's a little off with the internet, but I think my first thoughts when seeing this, because of the Lost Room, I'm trying to draw story parallels and say, what event happened in the past that caused all of these items to get powers? Right? In the Lost Room, it was a very particular thing that happened, and it caused everything in the vicinity of that event to gain these powers. So that's my overriding thought process while playing this game, is trying to put pieces together to say what caused the object to get power.
Right.
So that's just my baseline thought as I'm going through. What location could have even had all of these random items together?
Well, apparently they're found all over the world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the files talk about going to like Argentina, and they found this one in Ohio, and they found this one in Russia. So it's like they're cropping up all over the place. But one of the big things is the Astral Plane, which is this other dimension where the board is, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
And what comes out of the astral plane, I am not entirely sure. I believe that's where the quote villain of this story is from, which is known as the Hiss. So
yeah, we also got to fight the vibrating blob that came from the other side.
Yeah. Man, this is a hard one. So there's a lot going on here.
Well, the other cool thing that when you walk in and you're like walking around this building, it's the game clearly is going for kind of bold aesthetics, right? So, you get that every time you're in a new area. You get the big name of the area in big block letters that covers up the whole screen.
Yeah.
That's kind of bold. The building itself, the way it rearranges, the way it almost looks kind of like the FBI, but kind of like Soviet bloc. It's a lot of like concrete walls.
Yeah.
So
Very
it's
1970s, 1980s kind of feel to it.
Yeah. And then juxtapose that kind of drab, almost dreary background with all of these bodies just floating in the air. Like that, That's a really striking visual as well. And so, like, it provides a bit of unease as you're just kind of walking through this place. There's not a lot happening, but there are enemies cropping up out of nowhere. But then there's these bodies just kind of floating there.
Yeah. So something came from the astral plane that was known as the Hiss. And the Hiss, I don't think actually has a body. I think it's like a collective that possesses people. Certain people it turns into these, mindless drones that attack. Some just float in the air. And there are some people in the Federal Bureau of Control who have been able to fight off the Hiss by using these inhibitors. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, like HRC or something.
HRCs, which is basically, so from what I understand, the Hiss is like some kind of sound that you hear that turns you, because these little devices they wear, it looks like a speaker that like reverberates it away from them.
Noise canceling or something?
Yeah, noise canceling. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But for some reason, Jessie is immune to this. And then on top of that, Jessie is also hearing this voice in her head that she talks to. And it looks like a spiral gear of some sort.
Yeah.
And it's leading her around.
It reminds me a little bit of like Geiger or something. It almost looks like biomechanical or some kind of organic but mechanical as well.
Yeah. And eventually we find out that it's something that she calls Polaris. Fun fact, the building itself is an object of power. So where the FBC is located is a object of power known as the oldest house. And the oldest house is kind of like, I guess the best comparison would be what? Rose Red?
Yeah.
It's a house. Yeah, it's always changing. It has a kind of a mind of its own. It changes when it feels like it. And so it also is naked to, or it's not naked. It's invisible to regular people unless you know about it. So usually people can't. There are times I saw a document saying that if somebody just stumbles into the building, they need to talk to the person and ask these questions. And if they're harmless, then tell them to leave. Or if they think something's suspicious, you need to contain them. And And it seems like Jessie was able to find this building because of Polaris, the voice in her head that is showing her where to go.
Yeah.
So, Jessie is looking for her brother, which is Dylan, I believe, Dylan Faden. So what ended up happening was that when they were children, in their home of Ordinary, I think was what it's called.
Yeah,
is that their hometown?
Name.
Yeah, hometown of Ordinary. Her and her brother found a object of power. I think it was like in a landfill or something like that. And it was a projection slide. And while they were playing with it as kids, something came out of it. And that something was Polaris, I guess.
Yeah.
And it kind of...
FBC came and quarantined?
Yeah, FBC came and quarantined and took Dylan. And she escaped. And she's been spending the past 15 years looking for Dylan. So, yeah, it finally led her to here. Is that a good rundown so far?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seems like the kind of game where more backstory will get filled in as we go, but I mean, that's the driving bit of the story, right? That's why she's here. That's why she can get in. And that kind of sets off the adventure into the FBC.
Right. So
complicated, but I guess it doesn't need to be. It's enough to get her in, and things just keep getting weirder from there.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm trying to imagine the characters that we run into. So there's characters that we see and read about in the tons of documents that we see. Obviously the director, which was Trench, who is now dead. There is another big player, which is Dr. Darling, which is kind of like the head researcher for the facility.
Yeah, I like all the little videos with Casper Darling in them, because that reminds me a lot of Lost.
Yeah, a little bit. The Dharma
and it's,
initiative.
it's yeah, and I really like the kind of juxtaposition. They're talking about these crazy, obviously supernatural things, but it all feels very normal to them. It's just, it's just their job, and they're all just kind of doing like quote unquote normal science experiments on them. And, I kind of like that juxtaposition.
But, we run into some survivors, and of course they recognize Jessie as, oh, you're the new director. And to begin with, she's not wanting to really tell everybody why she's there. But eventually she does. I guess, what's the lady's name that's in the boardroom? Is it Emily?
Pope.
Emily Pope. She's kind of like your go-to for, okay, what do I do next? So,
yeah.
Emily's telling us, look, there's other survivors, but the problem is we can't get to any of them because the building's on lockdown. And the only one that can unlock the lockdown is the director, which, hey, you just so happen to be the new director. So you'll have to remove the lockdown. But before we do that, we got to go down to the maintenance area because this whole place is going to blow up. It's the cooling, right? And the generators?
Well, before we do that stuff, though, we have to do the unknown caller. And that's where We have to go to the communications department and find the hotline.
Right. Got to get the hotline first, because the hotline is the direct line to the board, and the board, I still don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Every time they speak in a strange tone and always have double meanings for every word.
Yeah, when you couple that with the fact that a lot of times when she's hearing voices in her head, there's also these kind of like visual distortions where she can like see a projected shadow of a person, and then then she can see Polaris as the as kind of that the gear shaped ring shaped thing in her vision. So I feel like you're getting audio distortions, she's getting visual distortions. I mean, she seems kind of crazy.
The projections.
If you were an outsider.
The projections, I believe, are the director talking to her.
Only the director.
Yeah.
But don't you get a little bit of the kind of the inverted pyramid, and isn't that somehow related to the board?
Yeah, I think when you see the inverted pyramid in the astral plane, I believe that's the board talking to you. But yeah, going to the hotline.
Makes perfect sense.
We have to talk about going to the hotline, because that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's two little objects of power here. So they have the light switches that you pull that then teleport you to a specific place, a hotel in the desert of Arizona, I believe. I don't know where.
Yeah.
But they have it arranged so to keep people from going to getting to the hotline as kind of like a countermeasure. They have this object of power there to keep people from getting to it. So you have to kind of solve a puzzle. So you pull the light switch, it teleports you to a random hotel in the middle of the desert. You got to solve a puzzle, pull another light switch, and oh look, we now have a way to get to the hotline.
Yeah, a little bit of a mystery too, where certain doors are opening when you pull the light switch, and every time you pull it, a different door opens.
Yeah, and you ring the bell.
Yeah. Ocean View Motel.
The Ocean View Motel. That seems like it's in the middle of a desert.
Yep. Not too many oceans, I don't think.
I don't think so. But yeah, make it to the hotline. And I'm guessing she binds herself to the hotline? I don't know.
Yeah, it says the hotline allows you to contact extra-dimensional entities.
But she doesn't have...
You fight one of those... You fight one of those kind of vibrating spheres. Well, you don't really fight it. You kind of run away from it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm guessing she bound herself to it because she's not carrying it around with her. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's what she does, right? Because before she does this, she finds the floppy disk. So she's got... And I guess that's bound to her too, right? Because she continues to have the ability to telekinesis items.
Yeah, launch stuff. Which I have to say, out of everything in this game, have you found this game challenging, Matt?
Only the very last fight did I find challenging.
Okay. If you upgrade the launch ability, this game becomes a cakewalk.
Yeah. I do really like the way it kind of balances where you can be launching things to do damage or to knock down shields, and then without the gun, unload the whole clip, and then while that's recharging, you go back to launching things. I like that kind of back and forth, for sure.
Yeah. So I've upgraded the launch ability almost all the way. I've basically just put points directly into that and a little bit into energy. I can one-shot anybody almost.
Nice. I should do that because
really
most of my attacks are launch an item, and then it takes one bullet to finish them off.
Yeah. All right. Have you upgraded the gun at all?
No, I focused on launch and health, I think.
Okay. You haven't unlocked any of the different styles of guns?
No.
Do you know about the different styles of guns?
Nope. Other than you can use the gun as a key at one point.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you go to... you may have to do this at like a control point. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you can change the version of the gun. So there's like the shatter, which is like a shotgun. And there's the spiral, which is like a machine gun. I have been using nothing but the spiral. And I placed you get mods for either your abilities or your guns. And I placed on this spiral a better accuracy. So, man, that thing is great now.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I've been mostly figuring I would just increase the launch. Kind of, for some reason, thinking that this would be, let's say, a little bit like Halo in that the pistol is always good. It's going to pack enough punch per shot that I'll just use that and complement it with a higher end launch.
Yeah, man, the launch is so good. When you get that thing leveled up, oh my god! Like, I'm to a point now where like if I'm aiming at a guy and I choose to launch something, she will sometimes grab an item from behind them, and when she's pulling it to her, it hits them.
Yeah, I've done that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, but there's other abilities you can get too. I know you probably got the dash ability.
Yeah.
Which is the carousel horse. And then there's also the shield ability, which was safe. I haven't really messed around with the shield too much. Probably need to. I know that
I probably should.
There's an unlock for the shield where after the shield takes so much damage, it then explodes and sends debris at enemies.
Nice.
So that would be really nice. So yeah, going back, got the hotline. Now we got to go fix the generators and the I guess the cooling mechanism for the generators, because it's apparently the entire building is going to blow up if we don't.
Yeah, and that's what's causing the lockdown. So we need to fix the energy converters and the coolant pump so we can lift the lockdown.
Yeah. So we got to go down to the maintenance area to do that. We run into some more survivors, one of which is like the head of maintenance. And he kind of directs us on where we need to go.
It's kind of cool the way they handle you don't have a direct line saying, go here, go here, go here.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like you have to figure things out in world. Like there's a lot of signs around, which I kind of like because at least it tells you in kind of the mission objective that you need to go to the coolant pump. So you're following the signs for coolant pumps. And I guess it's maybe not that much less guiding than actually having like an indicator or a map or something, but it feels more engaging because I'm actually using the environment and I'm actually looking for signs to tell me where to go. So it's kind of cool. I've gotten lost maybe a couple times in the game, but overall I really like the way they kind of unfold your progression through these different levels of the building.
Yeah, I'm okay with like the signs and stuff like that. I have a major problem with the map.
Yeah.
That map is god awful.
Yeah, I don't use the map too much because every time I've brought it up, I've been like, this isn't helpful.
No, it's confusing as crap. Like, I get it. The map is not like a Resident Evil map where you have like a page, and that's the first floor. And you go to the next page, and it's the second floor. Now, this one has all the floors on top of each other. It's just the blocks that are dark mean that they're below you. And I'm just like, what the heck is this? I just want to know, like, where I am. I get where I'm at, but there should be a door directly in front of me that leads to a question mark on the map, but there's no door there. And I'm like, what? Well, I don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
That's happened to me like 3 times so far, and I'm just like, I'm about to get done with this game. But then I've eventually found it.
Yeah, I do feel like I've been able to uncover it. I haven't actually ever gotten so stuck location-wise that I've had to, like, whip out a guide. I've been able to figure it out, which is nice.
The problem is
the other thing I thought that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying the other piece of that is I've died a number of times, and I do kind of like the way they keep your progression through the levels, because you only respawn at the previous control point or cleanse point.
Yeah,
and and then there are a few points where you're opening up shortcuts so you can move around more quickly, which I like. Not quite Dark Souls-esque, but it does make the levels feel like they're designed well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There are a few times where I'm just like, I ran through a door and I'm like, how the hell did I get back here? And I'm just like, I know where I'm at now, but I'm like, what? That door led to this door that led back to where I was. I was like, what? And like, there was a couple of times where it happened. I'm like, is this the oldest house fucking with me? And I'm just like, no, that's part of the level. But
maybe that's why the maps don't make any sense.
I guess, yeah. Maps useless in this
changing.
building.
Yeah.
But so we have to go do the what would it do first? I'm assuming we can do both of this whenever we want to, but obviously it kind of leads you to the generators first, I think.
See, I did the coolant pumps first. I thought you'd get to a point where it's basically just go left for one and go right for the other.
Yeah, I must have went the other way. But the you gotta you use the launch ability to grab a battery, much like Dead Space. It felt like Dead Space a little bit, where you grab the battery, you put it where it needs to go.
Yeah,
and then when you go
each
to
time you do, a new wave of enemies comes out for you.
Yeah, they like to send a lot of dudes after you.
Yeah,
but the coolant area, you then have to go and unclog this thing, and the janitor really hates that clog. He's cursing in another language about it, and it's some nasty
in riddles.
Yeah, very nasty looking living goo thing.
Yeah, it's kind of spewing puke all over the place as well.
Yeah.
Ooze.
But after you get that done, we're no longer at risk of blowing up. We have to finally turn off the lockdown, which, hey, luckily, it leads us right to the room where the lockdown is.
Yep.
The control room, and that's where we use the gun as a key to unlock it. And now we're free to go wherever we want to in this building, with some minor exceptions.
Yeah, and using that gun there was the name of the chapter. That was our directorial override, right?
Yep. So we go back to Emily, and she's like, yeah, we need to head down to the research laboratory, because there's a couple of people down there that would be very helpful in this situation. Darling had created the devices. What'd you call them again? The H what?
Like HRC or something?
HRCs?
I don't know what it stands for.
I can't either. But, and he was working on some more. And he may be down there in the research area. That's where his office is. but also, God, what is her name? Marshall? Is that her name?
Yep.
Yeah, Helen Marshall. Which is she's the head of the operations. She is kind of like, is she? Why is she not the head of security? Because she seems like a complete and total badass.
Yeah, she does.
And I'm just like, okay, so that's our head of security. No, that's just the head of operations.
Yeah,
So,
this whole level, the Old Boys, is where I did start to feel like the game took a little bit of a jump difficulty-wise. I didn't find it to be terribly hard, but throughout the rest of the game, you could almost run into a room and just gun as you go.
yeah.
You know, when you're facing 2 or 3 or 4 regular enemies, and there wasn't much risk of dying as long as you can shoot quick and launch quick, then you can almost just run through the rooms. But starting in this level, it had to be a lot more patient because they throw sometimes, like almost a dozen enemies at you, or, some enemies that seem to basically kill me in one hit or get pretty close to it.
Yeah, there's always those guys with the rocket launchers. Which if you upgrade,
do I need to upgrade anything to be able to grab the rockets out of the air?
Yes, there is a node that you can unlock that allow you to throw grenades and rockets back at guys.
Yeah, because I've tried to do that a few times and blown myself up.
Yeah, no, you have to get the node first. But it definitely jumped up in difficulty here. I should mention that while we were still in communications, I forgot about this. We had a boss fight. We had to fight Tomasi.
Yep.
Who was, God, I can't remember what he was. He might have just been the head of communications. I can't remember. But, he was, I remember the first time I played this game, he killed me a bunch of times. I was like, what the heck? This is the first boss in this game, and I'm getting the crap beat out of me. Wasn't too difficult this time around, I guess because I knew he was coming.
Yeah.
But, he floats around.
Everything I did went a lot faster this playthrough. I spent a lot of time the first playthrough just kind of meandering a bit, and this time I'm like, I kind of know what to do, I kind of know how everything works, and I was able to just kind of progress.
Yeah. There's also another big thing, and this is something I don't know if you've done it, Matt. You're playing on the PS5, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Okay. On the Series X as well, on the Ultimate Edition, they have it optimized for the new consoles. And you have the option of playing in I guess 4K 30 frames per second, or you can turn on ray tracing and it plays at 30 frames per second. No, ray tracing with 30 frames per second, or 4K regular at 60 frames per second. So I was like, you know what? Let's see how it looks. So I changed it to the 30 frames per second. I have to give them credit. The reflections, everything, the lighting looks fantastic. This game looks great.
Yep.
But I switched it to the 60 frames per second. That changes that game. That game is 10 times easier. Only because the 60 frames per second gives you a way better reaction time.
Yeah.
I can shoot, and it was the perfect example. I had it on the nice looking graphics, and I had to do that freaking the shooting gallery, like the training course.
Yep.
And I kept failing at it, and I was like, this is getting annoying. And so I changed it to the 60 frames per second, finished it first try. And I was like, that it makes a difference, man. It really does. And it plays great.
Yeah, I might have to switch it.
Yeah.
I've only kept it in fidelity mode so far. Yeah.
No, it runs smooth as butter. And it still looks pretty good. It doesn't have all the fancy reflections and stuff like that. But man, it runs smooth, and the reaction times because it defaults to no auto aim, or not auto aim, but no aim assist. And with the 60 frames per second, I don't need the aim assist. I can actually handle that. So, makes a difference. But yeah, we're going down to the research area, and this is the place I want to be. Like, I want to be in the research area because I want to know everything there is to know about what these things do.
Yeah,
I want to meet Casper Darling because he comes off as like this really kind of bubbly personality who's like really excited about this new stuff and coming up with all these fun names for things and stuff like that. But I get the feeling he could possibly be nefarious.
Just because he seems, too interested or engaged and friendly?
Possibly. I think it's one of those things where like he's just so in awe of this new technology or this new powers and stuff like that he'll do anything to learn more about it.
Yeah. Twists.
Yeah. Like, did the hiss show up because of him? But at the same time, there was also, I want to say it was the guy down at maintenance, the head of maintenance guy. Didn't he say that Darling came by and gave everybody one of these devices before the hiss even showed up?
Yeah, when did the FBC get initiated?
I'm not sure.
It certainly was before, before Dylan and his sister, discovered theirs because they showed up to kind of take it. So
yeah,
I wonder how long these objects have been around. I mean, if the disc was from World War II.
No, the disc wasn't from World War II. It was from the Cold War.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, I guess.
They had the nuke codes. Wasn't there objects that were like, I thought I read something like they found objects back in the 60s. Like it was documented to be found in the 60s. So I would assume this bureau has been around for probably since the 50s, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I guess some of the architecture would have you believe it's been around for a while. I haven't read enough of the documents and stuff. I've read some of them, but I do want to dig in more and see what could be revealed or what I can understand about all this from all of the text and lore that's in the game.
There's tons of it, and it all reads like SCP stuff. So, yeah. So go down to the research area, and there are a few survivors down there as well. Marshall is one of them. We finally run into her. And Marshall's all about, hey, these devices that keep the hiss away, we need to get more of those. And they're made by this... Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's HRA, not HRC.
HRA. So, yeah, we need some more of these devices. And Darling was making them from this special type of material, this ore that came from the Astral Plane, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. And so we go into his like little laboratory where he was experimenting with that material and have to solve this puzzle that I was a complete idiot about.
Yeah, with the cards matching up to the five machines.
Yeah. But before we got there, we had to deal with the whatever the hell that thing was in that room. That right there, I was like, do I fight this thing? What am I doing here? And if it gets close to you, it just drains your health.
Yeah, pretty quickly. And the number of times I launched things at it, and then you can see kind of like its center, its nucleus. But even when it was in that state, didn't seem like there was anything you could do to fight it. So it was pretty clear with all the doors that I had to trap it somewhere.
Yeah, I eventually figured that out.
Yeah.
And trapped it, and I was like, okay, well, I got it trapped at least. Yes, another astral plane thing that, holy crap. And then we made it to the laboratory where we had to turn on this device that would, I guess it shot a laser into the material. But the material shattered. And
yeah,
so Marshall shows up and says
really know
we need to go get more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the next mission was to go and get some more of this material. And that's where I stopped. So.
Yep. Me too.
I don't know. This game still feels like a fever dream.
Agreed. I think both the audio, the visuals, the kind of the craziness of the storyline and almost the randomness of the functions, everything seems a bit almost out of sync, but not in a bad way, just in the pieces haven't been put together yet kind of way.
Yeah, I said it on the podcast for N4G that I feel like where I've gotten this game feels like I started watching a TV show, but I started at like episode 5. And I'm just like, what is happening? The biggest thing for me was when Jessie picked up the gun, she became the new director. And then instantly everybody in this building was like, oh, you're the new director. Like, how did they know she picked up the gun? How did they know she was even there?
Yep.
Are these people brainwashed into knowing this? Or do they have some kind of connection with the astral plane that gives them this information?
Or was history rewritten? Doesn't sound like it because they still knew that there was a former director.
True, but then there's also paintings of Jessie as the director.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it, and I wasn't sure if not that it was time travel, but it was just kind of like a resetting of things. But
yeah, or maybe that's just the oldest house.
Yeah, it's tied to its flexibility.
Yeah, the oldest house is like, oh, you're the new director. Well, let me go ahead and change these paintings for you. I don't know. That was like I still can't figure that out. And I still don't know what Polaris is. That this being that she's talking to in her head.
Yep.
So I don't know. We do have an email though.
Oh, nice.
It comes in from Chad. It's labeled "Let's join the Threshold, kids." Says, "Howdy crew. I originally played through this game when it first released. Although I think it is a good game, I wasn't nearly as hot on it as everyone else at the time. I picked up the Ultimate Edition for the PS5 a while back, but let it sit for a while and figured this would be a good opportunity to jump back in with you all. The story is a bit of a fever dream, and although it seems complex, it's actually pretty straightforward. Jessie and her brother Dylan found an object of power when they were kids in a junk heap in their hometown of Ordinary. Although Jessie got away, the Foundation came in and collected the object of power and her brother. So apparently something attached itself to Jessie called Polaris, which has helped her find the oldest house so she can find her brother. There are a couple of things that aren't very clear, at least not at first, such as whether Polaris makes Jessie a para-utilitarian, or if she already had those abilities. Although some of the collectibles and story dialogue, it makes it sound like Jessie and Dylan were already special, which is why the Foundation was thinking about grooming Dylan to be the next director. Speaking of which, it's weird how everyone is so accepting of Jessie being the new director after she just walked into a building off the street and picked up a gun. Understandably, they all seem to realize the gun selects who the director is, but nobody is weirded out by the director committing suicide. I'm about 75% through the game, and I'm not sure if they ever explained why he killed himself. So I don't think the story is really a highlight for this game, which is why I probably wasn't too hot on it at the first time around. The setting, however, is fantastic. The oldest house, the hiss, and the text pop-ups when you first enter a new area is creepy, super stylized, and equal parts fascinating and engaging. So, alright, I have a question here. The hiss. Are we hearing the hiss? Am I missing something? Do I need to play this game with headphones or something like that? Because I know when Anthony was reviewing this game, he told me, he said, when the hiss talks to you, it's creepy. It sounds so creepy. Has the hiss ever talked to me?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Unless I'm just missing sound cues like when I'm fighting dudes or something like that. I don't know. But that's the second time somebody's mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, even during the bosses, I'm thinking of that very last boss we fought where he carried all that debris around him and kept launching it at us. I mean, I feel like if there's any time I would expect the hiss to talk to me, it would be during or before the boss fight. I don't think I've heard any hiss communications.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe you can explain that to me, Chad, because maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I need to play this with headphones or something like that.
Or maybe it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. It says, I normally play PlayStation 5 or Series X games on performance mode so I can get that buttery smooth 60 frames per second. But this game is an exception to that rule. The graphics mode does more than just give a slightly higher definition. The ray tracing additions are super, super cool. I haven't seen many games, if any, on consoles put so much detail into the reflections and shadows. It really adds a lot to the allure of the already creepy setting. If you haven't tried the graphics mode yet, you should really check it out. I have. It's very impressive. But man, I need that 60 frames per second. It plays so good. Matt, you need to try it.
Yeah, I'll try it, but it just looks so good and blown up. I'm like, I'm really enjoying just kind of wandering through this place and between the architecture, the boldness, the graphics and the reflections, it's not like a hyper exaggerated world that we're in, right? It's not like you're going from waterfalls to forests to the moon to Cloud City or anything like that. It's all just kind of a concrete building. But that being said, it's pretty fun to explore. I mean, each new area I do enjoy seeing. I like the way that I don't know. It's very ominous.
Yeah. When you first get into the research area where you come into that lobby and it goes downstairs and upstairs, I was like, oh, this is really different. It was almost like you were in like a inside courtyard.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like the look of this. This is really, really cool.
It's funny, as soon as I saw the two kind of like giant trees in the middle of the atrium, I'm like, oh, seems like a little bit of Alan Wake's hometown.
Yeah.
Giant redwoods.
In addition to the setting, the gameplay and physics is where the game really shines. Unlocking Jesse's different abilities through capturing objects of power and using them in various combinations helps to try and keep the gameplay evolving and fresh, in addition to unlocking different types of guns. Ultimately, though, I still just use the combination of the base gun with the Pierce form as my secondary. The Pierce form is slow and you can only pull off 2 shots before having to recharge, but it is great against enemies with shields, especially those who dodge thrown objects. As for abilities, I don't bother with shield or seize too much. I don't want to go too far into detail with the abilities because I don't know how far either of you have gotten. I have not found seize yet, but I think seize maybe, I think you have like a mind control ability where you can make enemies fight for you.
Not have a seizure.
Yeah. So now I remember what my biggest gripe was for this game. I hate the map. I was hoping they would have changed it for the Ultimate Edition, but nope, it still sucks. I was hoping they could have taken a page out of Visceral's Dead Space book and allow a map menu option that would let you rotate it so you could see some dimensions between the different levels, and or use the R3 button to give you a pulse direction indication for which way you should be heading for an objective. I swear I've probably wasted a couple of hours worth of game time running around in circles because I couldn't find a specific hallway, door, or staircase. The last thing I want to mention about this game, which I consider a highlight, are the collectibles. A lot of the convoluted story is further colorized by the different videos and documents you can find throughout the oldest house. Most of them are really fascinating. Sometimes I'll find a partially redacted document talking about a specific object of power and then wind up running into it later within the game. The videos and the voice recordings are also really well done in that typical Remedy style. I appreciate that most of them are pretty short, which helps to keep from messing with the game pacing too much. Sorry, I can't read today. But there are still just way too many of them. I mean, do I really need to read someone's grocery list or book club notes? They should have scaled that back a little because as much as I enjoy them, I've gotten burned out and I've been picking them up without reading them. The best collectibles of all, though, are those creepy-ass Threshold Kids VHS tapes you can find. So completely unnecessary and weird, but I absolutely love it. Now these I make time to stop and watch because they are just so uncomfortable and really add to the creepiness of this world. I don't want to spoil anything, but remember the last third of this game really kicks into gear, gets weirder, and has a few surprises. Until next time, Chad.
Wow, that sounds awesome. I'm much more interested in hearing that it ends on a strong, interesting, weird note than it fizzles out, and we've already seen the best that it has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. So, unfortunately, I do know a little twist to this game, only because it's been out for so long, and also because Anthony kind of just told me.
I don't know it.
I'm not going to spoil it for you. Do you know? Are you familiar with the DLCs, Matt?
No.
Okay.
Other than that they're included in the Ultimate Edition.
Okay, but you don't even know the names of them?
No.
Okay. Do not look up the names of the DLCs. Okay?
Okay.
Because one of them will spoil the little special twist in there. Okay?
Interesting. Yeah.
I guess because it's the second DLC that came out. When the second DLC came out, I guess they figured everybody had already played this game, so they just kind of just put it in there. So just don't look anything up about Control.
Okay.
Unless you're looking for like a walkthrough.
I've avoided it so far, so yeah, unless they spoil it in the walkthrough, I should be okay.
I wish I didn't know, but it's going to happen because it's been out for 3 years, so I can't help that I know this. But because if I'd have found out just through playing the game, I would have been like, "That's cool. That's really cool." But you will see it eventually. I'm planning on playing both DLCs. Apparently, you can just run into the DLCs in this game. It just happens. You know, it's not like you have to choose something from the menu or anything like that. So I don't know when I'll start one of them. So it'll just happen, I guess. I think it's kind of like just a side story kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just to be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. I don't even know when you can access them. I might just look it up because I know the little small twist from the last DLC. But yeah, you'll you may get a kick out of it.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, that's it for this recording. I'm feeling pretty excited for this game. It's been one of those things. Like, I get off work, I got a couple hours to kill, and I just boot up Control. Like, let's keep going. You know, it hasn't been one of those, like, there's been days where when we're playing a Yakuza game, I was like, I don't know if I want to jump into like a long ass session of Yakuza. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with Control, it's just like, hey, I can make it to the next, little, cleansing point. That shouldn't be a problem, And I've had a ball with this game so far.
Yeah, me too. I've really enjoyed both the weirdness, the back and forth of the gunfights, and between the launch and the gun, and balancing that out, and watching the little weird videos. I don't know. It's been pretty interesting so far.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah. I think that'll be it for us. If you would like to send us an email, it's drew@ztgd.com. I know there's a few people playing along with us, so if you would, please send us an email. Chad, thank you for yours. If you would also like to follow us on Twitter, I am at DML Fury, Matt is at REMGS, and the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. Yeah. I can't think of anything else. I think that's it.
Yeah, it makes me really want to go play Quantum Break after this as well. Just to see what I missed with Remedy.
I even had that thought too. I did while I was playing Control. I was like, man, maybe I should give Quantum Break another shot, because I mean, the powers in that game feel a little bit like Quantum Break, and I don't know. Maybe I didn't give it a fair shake. Honestly, I think it was the TV show stuff, because I mean, it's like a 40-minute episode of a TV show in between each chapter.
See, the thing is, I missed it because I never had, or for long stretches of time, I haven't had access to like an Xbox One. So there are many times I've wanted to play it and just not had a viable way to do so. And
right.
Since I recently picked up that Series X, I can kind of go back and see some of what I've missed, and that's pretty high on the list of those gap games.
Well, there you go. Yeah, and Quantum Break is it's on Game Pass because it was published by Microsoft.
I'll have to check it out at some point.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's going to be it for us. I appreciate everybody listening. Until next time, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we are out of here. You guys have a great week, and we'll be back next week with the continuation of Control.